you would have received 18 responses that should be in your possession. You should also have a document titled Interim Report of the Ad Hoc Committee on the SABC Board Inquiry to Fitness, and it says Summary of Responses. And you should also have a document that has Research Unit on the right-hand side, and it says Summary of All Comments. Those are the documents you should have. And then you should also have a proposed program. I'm assuming members have all those documents, besides the numerous responses that. And then you should have a program. Yes. Or, yes? Yes. Summary of all comments received. That's the research document. And then the other one is Summary of Responses of Interim Report. Anybody else doesn't have that document? Nobody has it? Okay. Mr. Singh and Mr. Swartz don't have it, Cindy? You do have it? It should be with everybody's. That's fine. Yeah. Mr. Singh, you happy? Okay. All right. Thank you, members, and welcome to everybody. Can we go to the program? By way of apologies, Honorable Mokoena has indicated that he's late. He will join us after lunch. Honorable Khoza will join us after 11 o'clock, unless it has changed, but I was informed that Honorable Khoza will join us after 11. And then Honorable Van Dam will not be with us for the entire week because she is preparing for a big day, getting married on Saturday. So Honorable Van Dam won't be with us for the rest of the week. Any other apologies, Honorable Chauke?
No, thank you, Chair. You have already dealt with the Honorable Khoza's apologies. In fact, they instructed to do that in the meeting. But can I make an appeal? Maybe Honorable Mike Waters must not feel alone sitting in the corner there. Maybe you can join the team this side. But on the second point, Chair, let us just note this, that on Sunday, the Minister of Communication, it was her birthday. I cannot announce the years, but nonetheless, let us wish her a happy belated birthday and many, many more years to come. I think it's very important that as a Minister of Communication, we should appreciate having understood that she had a birthday party on Sunday. It must be noted, and a wonderful message. If we had flowers, we can even send flowers, if possible. Thank you.
All right, I think we can note that one. I don't think there's an apology. Honorable Swartz, this is before we get to the program, eh?
This is on the program. Apologies.
On apologies. We'll talk to the program and we'll allow members to comment. Apologies, sir. Yeah.
Chair, tomorrow is the budget, so I am an alternate member, but just to advise that I won't be here. I'll be in the lockup for the budget on Wednesday and possibly some of Thursday morning with the Minister of Finance. So if you wonder why I'm not here. And Chair, I just also want to, when we speak about dates, I was pleased this morning that the SABC commemorated the 100 years of the SS Mendi that sank. And I heard that on SABC this morning, so I just want to commend them as well for remembering that date. And the Minister in the Presidency is in England at the moment, so it's a significant date as well today. Thank you, Chair.
All right. With all the well wishes, I think there's no opposition to that. On the program, honourable members, and this is a proposal, I'm informed that there was some informal discussion outside, so I'm not sure that I'll be talking to it, but you are free as parties to indicate. What we thought, when I say we, I'm talking about the researchers, committee staff and everybody else. What we thought, honourable members, was that we would go through each submission in the order that we have and have a discussion and agreement as to how we process that submission. If it indeed is going to affect our report as we've sent it out. Having done that, we will then affect the changes, if any, on our observations emanating from the responses that we received. And the final will then be to go to the recommendations that will in turn emanate from our observations. So that's the chronological order that we were proposing that we would do. And you will note that we programmed those that we thought were small in number in terms of page numbers and progressively go on to the ones that have a bit more reading to do, so that we could dispense of those that are small in number in terms of pages or responses and progressively move to the bigger ones and get that out of the way and then move on to our observations. Now, let's talk to that, and depending on that, we will then go to the program as how we see the actual days. Or maybe I should talk to all of them and people could talk to them. You'll recall, honourable members, you asked us to find as much minutes as possible. We have got confirmation from the powers that be that we can work the whole day today. And the whole day depends on you. If it means 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. We have provided for transport. So we work the whole day today. You will indicate when. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we've got permission to work in the morning, but we do not have permission to work during the budget speech. And then we've got permission to work after the budget speech. So for Wednesday, from 2 o'clock, let's say, until 3:30 or 4 o'clock, however long the budget takes, we're going to have to stop our business and reconvene after the budget. On Thursday, we do not have permission for the morning section. We start at 1 o'clock on Thursday, and we work until you decide that we should pack up. And then on Friday, we have the whole day to work, and hopefully by the end of the day on Friday, we have a product that we have to submit to Parliament and meet our deadline of the 28th. So that's the number of hours or days or minutes that has been granted to this committee. We have, as I indicated, 18 responses, and then we have to move on to the recommendations. That's really what is before this committee between now and the 24th of February. Can we have comments from members on everything that I've just raised now? I note Honourable Singh. Anybody else? And then Chauke, and then Swartz on the program and the work method. Honourable Singh.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. Chair, there's a program that I received from Honorable Killian, I don't think it's been circulated to everybody. This one here. So I think proposed program, you were speaking to this as well. If they can circulate this to all of us, it'll help us in our discussions moving forward. Because Honorable Swat and I didn't get one. Yeah, you were speaking to it, but I got this from Killian. Yeah. So, yeah, Chairperson, yeah, thank you.
Just before you continue, that's the program that says 10 o'clock opening and apologies. Yeah, all right.
We need a few more copies. But Chair, having said that, you know, I agree that we have to finish our work and we've got a timeline. But at the same time, you know, to be working 12, 14 hours a day, kind of non-stop, is really putting a lot of pressure on all of us and on our bodies. And I think this is something that we need to consider, not today, but perhaps tomorrow. You know, it may not be possible for us to conclude all our work because there's certainly an information overload here. And I don't want to say it's deliberate because everybody was given an opportunity to respond, have responded, and this is how they've responded. But so I'm saying to you that we can accept what you are proposing for now. But as we move along, we might just have to readjust our programs. For example, on Thursday, you say we start at 1. We finish caucuses around about that time. And then we dash here and then we continue. So I think we've got to be a little bit more flexible in that regard. And on the program itself, the one that was sent to us before, I think somewhere we've got to put recommendations. We say deliberations and so on and so forth. So we put recommendations and we have it as a day, you know, either Thursday, Friday. Instead of deliberations, we go recommendations because then we know we're reaching an end. Deliberations are open-ended. They just mean we keep talking around possibly the same issues. But I just want to thank the researchers and the drafters for having put together this summary because it's really helpful. And then the last thing, Chairperson, when you say we've got permission to be here, I would suggest that we go into the House for 5 minutes and then mark the register at least and come out because down there they don't know this. They mark us as absent. And the journalist likes saying, you know, Waters and Singh were absent from the House when we were doing business of the state. Thank you.
Just, okay, let's take, we'll note your point about recommendations. I didn't quite follow it, but there's another program, but we'll talk to that one. I had noted Chauke, Swartz, and then Prof.
Yeah, no, Chair, my point will be partly in support of what the Honorable Singh has raised with regard to the process. And I think it's important that maybe we should agree, Chair, that the information received, the volume of information received, we may not go through page by page and engage in that manner. Maybe with the work that you have already started to do, Chair, together with the backroom and research, to extract information that is key per information submitted, because it's not everything that is key. For example, I've gone through the SABC submission, and I've looked at it's 140 page, but the content, therefore, it's something that, obviously, I don't want to sort of come to it now, but it's something that requires just to look at 1 or 2 areas that have raised of concern. So therefore, the proposal will be that, Chair, we continue to look at, meaning that the research unit together with legal continue to extract as much information as possible so that we give justice to every submission that is made. But we cannot do it through reading per submission and per page. And when that document is properly prepared, meaning that looking at the summary that we have here, maybe feed more information, put more flesh into the summary, we can then engage on those bases, Chair. It will be easy for us because we now know what issues that are going to be coming forward and highlight those critical areas. It's going to be easy. In fact, if we were to do this exercise, I saw that, in fact, Mr. Singh did not want to get into it, but we have already made a proposal on that. If we can work on that line, Chair, on those bases, by tomorrow afternoon, we'll be in the position to know of all the submissions, in fact, and what is contained, which is key in every submission, you know, and then engage around those issues, you know, rather than just, if we're to make it general now, we're not going to finish this work, by the way. We'll finish sometime next week. I mean, if you to look at one submission of this size, Chair, it will definitely take us some time, but I'm saying that we're going to give justice through proper research of what are the issues that are raised into per submission. So I want to propose that, Chair, you and the background team together with legal, if you can help us to do that particular exercise, it's going to be very easy for all of us, Chair.
Before I recognize Swartz and Kubisa, I thought what you are talking about, Mr. Chauke, we have already done in the two documents that we've referred to you. The research, not the research units document extracts exactly per submission, and the background does it per submission. And also your own private reading would complement this. So I thought that was already done. Let's take Honorable Swartz and Kubisa, and then Honorable Waters. Honorable Swartz.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've gone through a lot of the documentation already, and I'm grateful for the summary. I think you're correct to say let's work from the research documents and take out the relevant the relevant portions. It's been very helpful to read the submissions and responses, particularly where it comes to factual inaccuracies. Again, the issue which I raised last week relates to the legal opinion that was given about weighing up evidence and on a balance of probabilities, and then together with that, the issue of where we would prefer a certain version, whether that version is based on hearsay evidence or is also substantiated by documentation. So those are issues which will be critical, and that will be contestable, because one can pick up immediately when one reads the documents there are certain allegations of biasness which would indicate, and clearly we will go through all the submissions very fairly, but one would not like this process to be taken further in courts where it would look as though we quickly went through the documents. There's a lot of documentation, and we will apply our minds to all the responses very equally. So we need that time. And I think, Chair, so I like what Mr. Singh also said, while we're dealing with the observations and deliberations, the critical part is going to be the recommendations. And we mustn't leave ourselves too little time for that, because that will take us a substantial time to, and we would obviously like to reach consensus as a committee on that issue. So let's be aware of that as well. Thank you, Chair.
All right. We will respond to that one. Thanks. Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would wish to go along with your view and the views of my colleagues. And because I noted with regard to the comments that were given to us, some of the responses pertain to procedural fairness and also substantive fairness. Now, the legal team has provided as a guideline. I think we can work along that guideline rather than delving deeply into minor things like correcting spelling and other issues of omission. I think we need to follow the guideline given to us by the legal team, Chairperson. And may I also report, Chairperson, that there will be a time when I go out for a debate and come back.
Honorable Waters, and then Honorable Killian, and then we're going to take a decision because we're discussing work method right now. Honorable Waters.
Chair, thank you. I said jokingly outside that it felt like we're cramming for an exam with all the information that we were given over the weekend. But I'm sure, you know, as Honorable Swart said, we will apply our minds to every single submission. And so there's, you know, I want to give that assurance to everyone that have made submissions that we will be doing it, and everyone concurs. Chair, do you think we should go through the document by the research, the researchers to use that as a base to go through. And as you said, based on what we've read from the submissions, if there's anything omitted, we can raise it and hopefully get it inserted if needs be, and we can have a debate around that. So I think that's all open, so we can use this as a basis. The other issue that we were told last week, Tuesday, was that we have to see, as far as the information that we've been given through submissions, we have to see if those individuals were reliable witnesses or not. Remember that legal opinion, and I think we have to bear that in mind as we go through a lot of these submissions. And then lastly, Chair, I don't want us to be found sort of short of time when we get to the recommendations. I don't know how this process is going to unfold. We might get there a lot quicker. We might get there later than what we anticipate. We don't know how it's going to unfold. But I see on Friday we are set to finish at 1 o'clock. Now, I know people want to get home and, flights, etc. But we may have to sit later than 1 o'clock on Friday. But may, I said, not have to, yeah. So I think we must just bear that in mind and be flexible when we get to Friday. Thank you.
All right. Honorable Killing. Thanks, Honorable Waters.
Thank you, Chairperson. Actually, I would like to commend you and the administration for, in fact, classifying the different submissions, because some of them that are listed in this morning's section as certainly those with very little, not voluminous documentation, and that we can deal with the others then as you have set out during the course of the day. I would, however, like to suggest that we, in fact, move towards completing all of this so that we can really commence with the SABC. And I just want to also at the outset say that we have vast documents that the SABC submitted, Chairperson, but actually if you look at some of the detail, it's somehow not all of it is relevant. And some of it is actually aimed at discrediting some of our witnesses, if you really scan and scrutinize the documentation. So I would suggest that we move with speed, but with due diligence and with accuracy and thoroughness through, but that we do the necessary corrections, but it doesn't mean that the whole report needs to be rewritten. I would like to, however, suggest that if at all possible, that we should be able to conclude on the SABC tomorrow afternoon by lunchtime when we break for the budget vote, so that we have Thursday afternoon and Friday to deal with the recommendations. I think we are all equally concerned about making sure that we capture the essence of our whole inquiry in our recommendations. So that would be my input as well. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Honorable members, in a program that we've worked out, we are hoping that we have the entire, when I say the entire Thursday, not the time that we've not given permission for, and the entire Friday for our recommendations. In fact, from Wednesday evening, if we can go through. So there will be 2 or 3 days just on recommendations. We really believe, if you look at the program, honorable members, that first session, we really believe we can conclude those things before lunch, because those are really, for want of a better word, paragraphs or changing words. When we get to the 1,500, if you look there, those 1,500 ones are the ones that are more voluminous. And those we're going to ask the authors of the documents to talk to us or talk through them for 5 or 10 minutes. In other words, the researcher, don't look too shocked, but we will ask you, because you prepared this document, just to briefly talk to the SABC one that you've done, for instance, for 5 minutes, so that it gives members even more insight. So the bigger ones after lunch, they will be thinking in terms of our researchers and trying to pull it out for you. And we will then do whatever else we need to do on those ones. But I'm going to push that we finish those that we have targeted for lunchtime to, in fact, finish them before lunch, by lunchtime, without skirting them, because those are really small ones. So I guess what I'm saying is that rest assured that the bulk of this week will be on recommendations, so that there's clarity on that we're going to spend as much as possible on our recommendations. And that is why it's important that we do a thorough job as possible on the responses, but also not to belabor matters that don't need belaboring in terms of the responses. I'm hoping, but members, we are flexible. As we go along, if things aren't working, we'll change them. The bottom line is we must do justice to responses. We must do justice to recommendations at the end of the day. I see you want to say something, Honorable Mthang.
Yes, no, I think it's a question of clarity that one would like to get, especially from the legal team. And obviously something that we should ourselves be reflecting on. We have documents that are sworn. We've got documents that came from lawyers. You have documents that are just normal documents. Now, you'd remember that when we went through the process, we had people who gave us evidence under oath, and we refused to take any evidence which was not under oath. Are we not running the risk of, through a back door, getting information which has got no one will take responsibility for? And I'm just saying that perhaps those who are in the legal must actually help us so that we are able to process our work accordingly. And I can't agree more with what colleagues have said. I've gone through almost all the documents except for those that came, I think, over the late. But SABC 1, I think I've gone through it, and so on and so on, and so quite a lot of them. Yeah, and the SABC 1 is one of those documents that is written by someone who never appeared before the committee. Well, she was there, the lady, if it's the lady that was seated next to Mr. Geldenhuys, I think, and now, just the status of, because it's crucial that we make that determination, Chair. Whilst we need to give respect to all documents, but I think that question becomes crucial.
All right. I'm sure those that are better placed will advise us when the time comes. But just to say to members, the responses that we received, barring that one, Mthang, were from people who appeared before this committee. And we asked them to respond to our document. So if there's any new evidence that comes that is not part of this document, then that is something that you can talk about. But I think for them to respond to the specifics that we put to them should be in order. But I'm looking at the legal team, because surely we didn't expect them to go and do that under oath. If they stick to what we have got in our original document, it should be in order. If there's new evidence or new information, let's put it that way, then I think it becomes relevant what you're saying, Honorable Mahlangu. In terms of the SABC, because they didn't physically present, but we'll recall that on the last day, we granted them permission to give us something in writing. So Anthea and others, maybe at some point you would need to clarify that point. But I think, Honorable Mahlangu, for all the other submissions, we shouldn't have this problem, because they are responding to our document. And I just don't want us to create any misunderstandings as we go on from here. SABC, I have sympathy for you, Honorable Mahlangu. We can get some advice, Anthea. But everybody else who appeared before us, spoke under oath, and is responding to our findings should be in order. Anthea, you can also confirm that one. But from where I'm sitting, it should be in order, because we never. You don't have to do it now. I'm saying when we get to that point. But I think it should be in order. Can we continue in that fashion, honourable members? Because I don't want to get bogged down with technicalities now.
No, Chair, I think on the point raised by Honourable Mahlangu, what we need to do is to verify the authority to communicate with us. Because the point that is making, I think, is correct, that SABC, as we all understand, that there is no accounting authority as we're dealing with this thing. But we have to verify the people that are now responding to us. I think it's very important as we deal with that particular area, so that we don't have to deal with a document that is written by someone sitting in the corner there on behalf of SABC and commenting on the board and all of that without an authority. I think we'll have to rectify that part. And I think I want to agree with the Mahlangu that we'll have just to look at that part. when we deal with the document, so that it's properly signed off with a clear authority given to that person that signed off the document.
All right. And if you guys could just do some homework just on the SABC one, because I think the others don't fall into that category. Agreed? Thank you very much. If we then can go, honorable members, to the, as members have agreed, to the research document, the one that says research unit, and find on page, this one doesn't have it. It wouldn't have element, everybody, let's just relate to this one there. All right. Okay. The document that says summary to responses, not the research unit, the other one, the one that says summary of responses in the interim report. Remember, we're working on 2 documents, and it's on page 6. Members are there? Page 6. On the document that says summary of responses to the interim report. On page 6, we summarize the responses from Ms. Shabalala. Is everybody there? Thank you very much. I'm not sure how we want to process it. Maybe we should ask for members on the Shabalala responses. Is there any comment that members want to have, that members want to input? I don't want to read what we've put there because then it's just going to prolong it. I'm assuming members would have read it. It's 3 points. 13.2.1, 13.2.2, and no, 2 points, 13.2.1 and 13.2.2. Members want to respond to that or add to? Let's take Killian for now.
Chairperson, if we look at the email that was sent, it came in essentially 35 minutes before closure on the final day, and it is very it's very superficial, may I just say. She expresses her discontent that that we've not properly ventilated her ideas in our report. Secondly, she says that we must differentiate between comments made under oath, and she was before the committee, etc., and other submissions. And then lastly, in closing, it appears that she indicates that she is reserving her rights. Now, I think the test for us as a committee is what did we do in the body of the report that could have offended Ms. Chabalala? If there was nothing specific that, in fact, if we didn't contain all the details, remember we, right at the outset, said it's not so much the volume of the report, but it's the essence and drawing conclusions and making our recommendations going forward. That is going to be of very great importance for us. So, having made the comments, I would suggest that we note Ms. Chabalala's email, and that we then, as long as we feel comfortable that we didn't make any sort of final finding on her, and as long as there will not be any adverse finding or recommendation as regards Ms. Chabalala herself. She just basically gave us background about governance procedures during her term. I think we can actually just note that and not correct the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, if we can recall the presentation she made, there were some follow-up questions where she made mention, she made some statements which she could not substantiate. And if you look even in the summary, it's saying there she refused to make an affidavit, citing that she was making her statement under oath. So I align myself with the view that let us note her submission, but she is making our work very difficult when she's not bold enough to make an affidavit of what she said. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I don't know if I heard the Honourable Killian properly, where she said that we, as long as we don't have find any findings against Mrs. Shabalala, we should just note her comments. But the fact is, did you say that? Is that what I understood? Because if that is the case, then, okay, that's not, I see Honourable Killian shaking her head, so it's not the case, because they would be preempting the discussions. But I do think, she, in my view, she was an unreliable witness. She contradicted herself. She, as I said, couldn't back up information. So I think we should just note her submission.
Honourable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I find a bit of difficulty in saying we should just note her submission, because we may go through everybody like that and say, let's just note. I mean, what impact is it going to have on our final product? And then our legal people need to advise us on that. Because do we include these comments as part of our report? We can't just ignore them. But do we at least include them and say, well, we received these comments from Ms. Shabalala or whoever, after we gave them an opportunity to respond to our narrative. So I think it's simplifying it when we say, let's just note. But I'm looking around for legal advice on that, because it will apply to every other submission as we move forward. What are we really going to do? Thank you.
Let's take that one, Mr. Singh. This document that we're talking to, we are assuming, when I say we, I'm saying the backroom staff, are assuming that it's going to be, if we've got to Part D here before the recommendations, it will be Part E. I'm using that as an example. So in other words, it will be to this document. That's why we're saying, if you go to this document on page 6, are you happy with what we've put in that document? Because that then reflects her responses. If we think that we've skirted it, when I say we, I'm saying the backroom staff, then you have an opportunity to add to it. If you think we've gone too far overboard, you have an opportunity to say, but we think you should take something else out. In the absence of anything else, if everybody else, I think the noted that members are saying is that take it as it is. In other words, these 3 points that we have here, it will be an addition to our report. That's before we even get to the recommendation stage. That's how we were understanding it. Is that how everybody else now understands it? So this document will really be, we've got everything here up to our observations. We'll have another page or another chapter that says responses to recommendations. Then we'll have our actual recommendations. So it's not just noted and thrown aside, it becomes part of the body report. Therefore, it is important that page 6.1321 and 1322, we are comfortable with, at least at this point. Once we're comfortable with it, we'll put it in the document, and when we look at the entire document, you'll have a second bite at it. But it's about, do we insert what we have put here as research and backroom into the body of the document? Honourable Singh, does that help you in terms of clarifying we're not just noting and putting it aside?
Yeah, I suppose you're referring here only to Ms. Shabalala's comments, because later on we may find with other comments it might need us amending our report. No, I'm comfortable with that.
That's the work method that we're saying. That's why we said we'll go through each one of them, and each one there is a comment. So we'll go through Ms. Shabalala as first. We're happy with it. We put it in our document. We go to the next one. We amend or we change or we whatever. We put it in our document, and then get to our recommendations and see if these, in fact, affect our observations at some point. So that's what we are doing. So we're going through a document that we want you to enrich. So I'm going back to page 6, 1321 and 1322. And also what you yourself have read over the weekend from the actual submission. We might have missed something, or we might have overemphasized on certain matters. Are we comfortable with the responses as reflected on page 6? Honourable Mathango.
I'm personally fine with the recommendations, but the statement that Mr. Waters makes, it's something that I share. I think it would have been good that we make that reflection, but if committee is fine with it, I'm okay. But indeed, for record, Mrs. Shabalala has not been a very helpful witness. The fact that she was asked, she raised specific matters, and when there were follow-ups, she jumped to something else and continues to jump to something else. I think she's an unreliable witness. But with regards to the content of 13.1 and 2, I am fine. But if we needed to make
No.
it stronger, I would have supported
No.
Honorable Singh.
And I think what Waters is saying, and everybody else, can we just deal with the input and not jump to the recommendations? Because I think that's what you warned Killian about at this point. Note them, and when we get to our recommendations and observations, if we want to change them, let's do that. But I don't think when we're doing the input, we can note that as from the input, these are my observations. I don't want us to be talking about input, recommendations, and everything. I'm just trying to, for ease of how we process it, Honorable.
I think for the third time, Chair, the area is being noted. I think members have already noted the submission and the comment. And I think we can then move to the next point, Chair, because I think we have dealt with this without going into detail.
All right. So we can tick that one off. And of course, as we tick them off and make changes, people, I would imagine members will then be developing their own recommendations as we go along. But we're not going to entertain recommendations until we've done all this. All right. So the issues on page 6 around Ms. Shabalala, members are comfortable with, so that we include that in the body of our report. Page 7. Page 7, the next one is Ms. Kalidas. Honestly, Ms. Kalidas says that she agrees with the report. Can we just go past that one? Because, I mean, we can't contest what she's saying. Her response was, I agree with the report. So Kalidas is done and dusted. All right. The next one is page 19. Page 19 of our report, and that talks to the responses from Mr. Masinga. Comments from anybody? All right. Members can remember it refers to 812. Members can come back to that one. I mean, if it needs a little bit more reading, we can always come back to it later. I see members are still applying their mind. I thought members would have read it, but do you want time to read it and cross-reference? I'm not sure, Mr. Swartz.
You see, Chair, this 8.1.2 refers to the amendments to the MOI, and the Minister also alludes to that in her submission. So it might be premature to deal with this. We might need to weigh up the two versions, but both Mr. Masinga and the Ministers, and to check factually whether it's correct and that. So, yes, Chair.
All right, there's a recommendation that, because this one talks to exactly what the Minister spoke to, that we deal with them simultaneously when we get to the Minister's submission.
But that's just with the first part. I don't know if it applies to the rest
No,
of
we're
it.
talking about the first part, the MOI part, because that was
2.1, 17.2.1.
That's 17.
2.1.
2.1, yes. So we're agreeing on that one. We will deal with them simultaneously later on. Yes?
Correct, Chair. Can we deal with it when we deal with the Honourable Minister's one?
That's what the suggestion is. When we deal with the MOI, we deal with, this one refers to MOI. Minister spoke about MOI, and we deal with them at that point. That's the proposal, Loliwe, Waters, and Swartz. I beg your pardon, Singh.
Chair, I don't have a problem with that approach, but I want us to put at the back of our minds that we agreed that where there are contradictions, at least we'll be assisted by our staff. Maybe at the stage when we are discussing this with the minister's input, at least they should chip in to say what do they make of that contradiction. Thanks.
Chair, I was just going to suggest that we deal with it now, because we're here. I mean, so why not just look at what the minister says and what Mr. Masinga said and deal with it? Else we have to come back anyway to the matter.
No, Chair, my suggestion is to support Honorable Swart that let's just flag it. Let's flag the substantive issues, and this is substantive. It's going to have an impact on our report, and it's going to also, we have to look at what other people said. So can we flag it, and we can deal with all of them, you know, a little later. But let's start ticking the boxes now and put aside those things that we can, you know, simply put aside, like Kalidas and everybody else. I say that with respect.
I think it's going to be easy, Chair, if we had to check with the legal team based on the tasks that we give them last time, because this form part of the tasks that we give them. Maybe check with them if they've prepared a document around those areas that have a sort of common, you know, issues. Maybe if they have that, we can then zoom into that as a package presented to us, because we have given them a mandate to do specific work around these areas.
Anybody else that wants to comment on this one? Remember, honorable members, the contestation here is the MOI, the genuine MOI, was the resistance to the changing of the MOI by the board. And all that he's saying here is, indeed, there was resistance, and there is the proof of it. That's what he's saying. A minister on her side had indicated that there was no resistance or something to that effect. And when we get there, we could deal with it. I thought we're dealing with the content per witness as opposed to the subject matter. Now, we are reflecting here that Mr. Masinga is adamant that there was some sort of discussion, and he's come to us with proof to that effect. Why can't we accept that as it is for record purposes? When we get to recommendations, we can then put, but his input differs to the input from any other witness. Because remember, we're trying to enrich the body of the report and not whether his view or her view is the correct view. He said to us, I stick by my point, and there's the proof to that effect. I'm sure when we get to the minister, she'll say, I'm sticking to my point, and there's the proof of her point when we get there. And then the factor of what the legal team said, weighing up the probabilities, comes into effect. Is that not all right? I'm looking at the Kubisa, and then Loliwe.
Chairperson, I will align myself with that. I think we must give the legal team some time to put these in writing so that we're able to weigh them at the end. But we take the submission by the response by Mr. Masinga and that of the minister. Then, with the document that will come, we'll be able to weigh where we chip in.
I'm covered, Chair.
I'm not sure. We're going to have to assign somebody. Vanara, can you just note this one? When we get to these type of ones that need more work, can you just note this one around the MOI and the various submissions? Already we've identified a submission from Masinga, and we've identified a submission from Minister. If you could just put that as a note, and we will process it at some point. This is just the one that we flagged. Is that okay, sir? How we process it will be based on what the two witnesses have said. But for now, we are happy that we can include it because he said this is what I'm saying, and he's given us minutes to that effect. Yes, ma'am.
Chair, can I just complicate Advocate Vanara's work a little bit? Because the SABC submissions are also dealing with the MOI. And in fact, they have submitted, again, an MOI that was unsigned. And in totality, we have received 3 different MOIs. And our research section has actually prepared a document identifying the differences between the three MOI versions. And I think that would also be very interesting to check. What are we talking about when, and who changed what in the MOI at what stage? So I think that must become part, because the MOI matter is a very serious matter which will have to be addressed in our recommendations. Chair, thank you.
All right. At the end of the day, we came back to what Singh and Nim were saying. We'll flag it with all those things, but Vanara, you'll do some work on that one. And as we go through the submissions, whoever speaks to MOI, we will note them. So 1721, the content we are accepting, but the substantial discussion will be what comes up later. All right. 1722. I mean, what he's saying there is he's just produced further evidence that supports what we've got in 1722. He's not contesting it in any other way. Singh.
Chair, is he not just expressing an opinion? He's expressing an opinion, yeah.
I think that needs any debate or discussion. It's just expressing an opinion, and it is corroborating and or strengthening what we've got in our report on 1721. So can we take that one as done? Yes, sir? Yes, ma'am? Yes? All right. So we will dispense with Masinga, except for the part that deals with MOI. And Vanara, you'll note that one.
Can I just again say, when we come to the SABC, we must just remember to also again look at this particular sort of submission, because they're also dealing with the TNA, and we will have to weigh up the two issues. We noted, we accept it as a submission. I mean, it's clearly, in alignment with what we have in our interim report. But obviously, when it comes to the SABC submission on the same topic, we must just bear this one in mind as well.
So for the record, it doesn't change any of our documents. It just supports what we've already got in our reports. That deals with Masinga. Page 20 is Mr. Tsietsi. He's in agreement with the report. We tick that one. No, I'm looking at everybody. I'm saying he didn't say anything other than he agrees with our report. Yes? Done. So Tsietsi is ticked. AGSA on page 22. AGSA didn't suggest any changes except a table, isn't it? A table and a redraft. Yes, ma'am. Let's take Killian, and then we'll come to you, Honourable Swartz. On AGSA.
Yes, Chairperson. Their submission is very small, but it is very, it's just a one-pager, but it's a technical readjustment, and they're also suggesting a rephrasing of paragraph 5.6.1.
Chair, this is the clause that I prepared, 5.6.1, and as the Auditor General on paragraph 3 wants to rephrase, and it is technical, but it does remove quite a significant phrase, which in our version on page 24 of the interim report, I indicated which cast significant doubts on the entity's going concern assumptions, and that now has been changed slightly to downplay it. Well, he's just saying were noted regarding the entity's going concern assumption, and so It's a technical term, and if the Auditor General wants our reflection of his report to indicate that, I don't think we can dispute that. It's technical. But I still hold the view that there are significant doubts as to the entity's going concern assumptions. So I'm not going to pursue it. I think we can accept the technical adjustment, but just bear in mind when we do recommendations that there is also with the SABC's submission, there are concerns expressed about the present issues of whether the SABC is solvent or technically insolvent, Chair. Thank you. So I support but I just wanted to alert you to that slight change.
So in terms of the AG's submission, the letter dated the 16th of February, we are happy with what he's giving us and how we've reflected here. Mr. Swartz, you are saying to us that when we get to the recommendations, we might argue about whether it's strong enough or not strong enough. Is that what you're saying? All right. The question is from Cindy, can we go ahead and affect the amendments as per the AG's report? Yes. All right. So we'll affect the amendments. So our document on page 22, 1911, I beg on 22, yes, 1911, we'll cut and paste what the AG has said. Happiness? All right. Cindy's making me wiser. In terms of this document, we'll leave it as it is, but when we go to the evidence of our document, we'll insert what the AG has said. Is that okay? In the interim report. All right.
Can she please explain? Because, yeah, can she just explain what are we going to do?
In Part D, the 19.1.1 remains like that because it mentions that the AG gave us a technical amendments in their response. But then, when we affect the amendments, we affect it to the AG section under number 5 or number 6 in our interim report, and we change the two tables the way they've suggested, and then redraft paragraph 5.6.1 the way that they've suggested.
Let me give you an example, a simple example. If you take the Foxton report, I think, in the original report, I think we spoke about 350,000. He came back and he said it's not 350, it's 75. So if we agree that it's 75, here we'll note 75, but we're going to have to go back to that document and correct it. That's what we are saying we're going to do. You happy with that? Thank you. Yes, sir.
With regards to the AG's recommendation, we're just changing that first paragraph. Are we leaving the remaining 3 bullet points in? Eh? Are you with me on page 24 of the report? Yeah, of our report, yeah. Because we're saying we're going to amend clause 561. Right? Okay. So that's I'm assuming now it pertains to the first paragraph on top, the heading paragraph. We won't be changing the 3 paragraphs underneath that. The cash revenues, the revenue increase, SABC reported it. We're leaving those in. That's what I want to get clarity. Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. Thank you.
AG is saying 561, the introduction part of it. He's saying just rephrase the introductory part. All right? The full document once we're done. Anyway, and then on page 23. Page 23? Yeah. Where? Between Matesa. No, it's 24. Okay, now let me use that document then. All right. Page 23 at the bottom. That's where everybody is. We're dealing with Mateza's input. Did members read Mateza's input? His actual input. And are we reflecting it correctly here in our document? That's the test. In our document, we're in essence saying that he's giving us further proof of the relationship between TNA and SABC. Have we reflected it correctly? Mateza's input. Any comments on Mateza's input?
Chairperson, I think he just supports the continuation of the arrangement between TNA and the SABC as currently as this month. So, yeah. Now, so we're happy with it. I just wanted to actually, again, just read what we're saying in the interim report, because I think the fact that he's provided evidence that it's currently there, or have we spoken in the sort of past tense, or are we speaking in the present tense?
I think you'll have to check that one, or somebody will have to check it. I think we were talking the current tense in the report. I mean, you can do that, Mr. Singh. We're talking current tense.
Yeah, Chair, I would think that it's still happening now. This is
Yeah.
what he's saying.
Yeah.
We have been expressing concerns, but it's still happening. And maybe that's something in our report or recommendation looking forward. And I think we've already made some comments to the SABC and to the chair of the portfolio committee when you wrote to them last week or the week before, saying that there were certain areas that are still going on, which we expressed concern with, and they need to investigate that. Maybe we should refer this to the portfolio committee as well, as a matter that they need to look into.
Ms. Killian, what we are saying is that if you find it in our report that we're talking about past tense, highlight it to us and we'll make it present tense. Please do that, so you can make that note yourself. If you find that we're talking as if it was something in the past, everybody's agreeing that it's something that's still ongoing. So if we have to go and do all that right now, it's going to take us forever. You can go and look for it and get it to us, please. But it's on page 32 of our report, of the interim report. Where is it? No, yeah, you can go to page 32 of our report, Ms. Killian, and it talks about it's happening now. Are you comfortable? Thank you. Anything else on the issues of Mateza? That's it only. Yes, sir.
You know, when I went through his presentation, the question that I was unable to answer to is, by the way, where did we meet with Mr. Mateza? He never appeared. Did he make any formal submission except this written one? Did he make anything? Now, how do we weigh his input in this regard? I think it's one of the questions that I was raising earlier on.
No, absolutely. He was not one of the witnesses that came here, but I mean, like, I think it's the only one where there was no, or it was an unsolicited, it was, for want of a better word, unsolicited input. We can scratch it because he never appeared, but I mean, it's not anything that is different from what we've got in our report anyway. So from a safer point of view, we could take it off our report because technically he didn't appear in front of the committee. It was just somebody that said, by the way, he has further evidence, and it will then take away what you were saying. I'm looking at members. That is probably the safer route to go. Is that okay? Thank you very much. If it was saying something totally different, it would have raised our but it's basically supporting. So for the record, it will not appear on the body of our report. Okay. Those are the smaller ones. And then we go to Mr. Foxton on page 24. Here. All right. You recall. Is this his submission? Summarized version. Okay. On page 24, 22, 21, 21, He really just says that in our submission that says 350, 75. And he provided a contract to that effect. That it's not that amount. However, if that is the amount that was given to us by whoever gave it to us, when we get to that submission, we need to ask the question, why did you give us 350 when it's 35? But I'm saying certainly in terms of Mr. Foxton's responses, he's saying, please note that it's 35 and we've got that contract that it's, 75. The contract was provided by the SABC, by the way. But I'm saying we've got the contract in our possession. So 2121, we're happy? 2121. Only 2121. We'll go to 22 and 23 quickly. 2121. Yes.
Happy, Chair, because it's just correction of figures.
We must just capture it correctly because he is in fact saying 75,000 plus VAT, but he says it now stands at 85,000. So we will have to capture both. And then secondly, I think what is just important is that we just change to in fact indicate that it is a political and current affairs consultancy. So, you know, as far as the accuracy in our report is concerned, we just reflect that accurately. Thank you, Chair.
Stating that in 2221. We are saying the affidavit clarifies that Foxton is a political and current affairs consultant. So you're saying we must change that?
It's correct, but it means that we must just change our interim report. Yeah, wherever it appears in that specific paragraph must be adjusted to reflect the amount correctly, as well as the name, you know, the type of business. Thank you.
All right, I think we agree. We will do that. 2122 is just elaborating, and he's talking to the contract anyway. On 2122. And 2123 says the same thing. He talks to the contract. We're happy to put that in because I mean that is fact. I mean that's by the contract. Is that all right? All right, members. So Mr. Foxton, we have affected the changes that he requested because we agree with them in terms of the amounts. All right. Page 25.
Still on Foxton.
Oh, you're still on Foxton?
2123, yeah.
You want to talk to 2123? Yes. Anybody?
I think he's just telling us what his duties were. Yeah, what his contract sort of indicated. We can check this out. Cindy and team can just check this out with his contract. Whether this were the terms of reference.
Yeah, everybody's got the contract. We've picked it up from the contract in terms of the scope of work. So you have the contract before you, and we can do that one. All right, so we can strike Mr. Foxton in terms of submissions. Yes. We go on to page 25. Mr. Motseneng's legal team wrote a letter indicating that, and I'm summarizing it, indicating that the client, his client never appeared. He wants to place it on record of the prejudice that he believes he suffered because he didn't appear. I mean, no, let's do 2131 as we did before. That one is just telling you what happened, that there was a legal letter. And you've got a copy of that letter. 2132 places on record that he was prejudiced. That's what the letter says, and we're reflecting what the letter says. If members want to then, at recommendation point, deal with it, you can deal with it. But I'm saying, you're happy that we're reflecting what's in the letter. And then 2133. Saying the same thing. It was a letter of protest. That was really a letter of protest. And when we get to recommendations, we're going to have to decide how we deal with it. Because we had this debate at least twice in the committee. You'll remember that Honorable Kwankwa also raised it. So all they were saying is that Honorable Kwankwa raised it, you denied Honorable Kwankwa, and we're putting it on record. I mean, I'm summarizing what the contents and the prejudice that he might suffer through that. Swats.
Chair, I appreciate this might correctly reflect what Mr. Motswaneng's legal representatives have said, and that's what we are dealing with, but we don't need to allow it to just stand in as much as we would need to respond legally to say that we differ from that. The SABC was given full opportunity to respond after every witness. So I think whilst this is correctly reflects the legal representative's version, I would advise that we refer this. Also, there's been a lot of correspondence between lawyers that one needs to deal with this, not only in recommendations, but in responding to a lawyer's letter to say that we do not agree that he is prejudiced by that, because otherwise that stands, and I think that needs to be dealt with legally, Chair. Besides this, I agree with our approach here that we accept that, but there's a separate issue that needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, we've drafted the letter with the help of the legal team. By the next time you come back, we'll give you that letter. We just didn't sign it because we wanted your buy-in. It says exactly what you're saying. So we will print that letter now,
Dealt with then. That's
formally responding that we disagree, but we never had the mandate to send it without your buy-in. So now that you are saying you want us to go that way, 2 minutes, you'll get the letter that we are proposing, and then you can agree with the wording. But it's a letter drafted by our legal team. We're happy with the contents in here. We're talking about how we take it forward. 1, 2, and 3. Mr. Singh.
Yes. So, Chair, what you are saying and what we are saying is that when we are drafting our final report, we got an interim report, we'll include this aspect there, that a letter was sent and we disagree, so that before our report goes to Parliament, they are aware of what's happened. Thank you.
We will give you a copy of that letter for your endorsement before we send it out, but the letter is ready.
Chair, I'm fine with our take on the matter as well as our response. The only matter that I'd like to raise is more technical matter, because we got the letter from the letter from the lawyer representing Mr. Motswaneng, and I can see that we are referring to the lawyer. Shouldn't we at 2.1.3 state perhaps the law firm and then for Motswaneng, so that it is clear that how that matter came about. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to think. But if this is the way to go, it's fine. But I would have, for the sake of clarity, I would have placed the name of the company representing Motswaneng.
I was going to propose, Chair, that let's package that letter with the entire task that we have given to legal. As they present on issues that we have referred them to come back to us on all the legal issues, we can then deal with that letter at that level. Yeah, for now, we just note it, and which is a good work that you have done so far, Chair, to have even prepared the letter. Thanks.
Fine. We'll make that letter available, and when we get to there, it's about signing it and sending it off. All right. So in terms of the responses with regard to Mr. Motswaneng, we are comfortable. Thank you very much. Page 20. We are talking to the responses of Mr. Shushu. I beg your pardon. Page 20. Again, I mean, this is our advice. When I was talking to Cindy yesterday, we were asking the question about, I mean, this is a case of introducing new evidence. And the question is, do we want to entertain new evidence, or are we going to stick with what was before us? That is the question that we're asking. He really didn't respond to our stuff. He was introducing new evidence over and above what we had already had in our report. The question is, do we entertain it, or in line with what Mr. Mahlangu was talking about, new evidence, and we've already decided on one of them. Ms. Killian and then Prof.
Chairperson, in respect of some of the companies listed, it is contained in our report. So we can obviously look at it from that point of view. But if any new evidence, I would suggest that that we actually refer that to the Portfolio Committee on Communication for further investigation, because our committee is, you know, we have had evidence before us, we've dealt with the matters before us, but we can't now entertain new matters to investigate further, because we're actually now concluding on our recommendations. We don't have the time to engage further on these matters. Thank you.
Yeah, surely, Chairperson, excuse me. Yes, surely, Chairperson, I think we'll note the comments as far as they refer to our findings, but as far as they bring in new evidence, it's going to be problematic, because we cannot be swayed to the new evidence. We don't have time for that. Thank you.
All right. So 1714.1 is fine as it is here. Oh, sorry, Mr. Waters.
Chair, if you look at Mr. Shushu's submission, hey? I mean, he gives quite a lot of detail from page 20 onwards. I mean, it's extensive, the information that he gives with regards to elaborating on certain deals with companies. And I do agree that where we've got those companies listed or mentioned in our report, we should take that information into consideration, most definitely. He does elaborate on quite a few, or he does mention for the first time other deals, which is unfortunate that we don't have it mentioned in our, because he didn't raise it initially. And I agree that we should send it to the Portfolio Committee. But, I am worried about, it was also mentioned earlier on by Honourable Singh that we send something else to the Portfolio Committee. I'm worried about the Portfolio Committee, per se, generally. The fact is, as you would know, Chair, they haven't even started deliberations or interviews with the interim board yet. They're dragging their feet in many instances. But I do think that would be the only avenue that we have available to ourselves. But it's quite damning, the information he's given us. It goes on for at least 10 pages, I think. Yeah, 10 pages of additional information. So that would be my suggestion, Chair, that we incorporate where we can for companies or contracts that we have mentioned already.
All right. We're agreeing that new evidence, as a principle, we're not entertaining. It will go to relevant portfolio committees or wherever. Evidence that refers to this matter, we will entertain. I've noted hands. You want to speak, sir? And just on this, on 1741. You want to speak, Loliwe? 1, Loliwe, you'll be 2, and Chauke, you'll be 3.
Chair, I agree with the colleagues that says the matters should be referred to the Portfolio Committee. But you remember, yes, just to reflect on one of the matters that we spoke to as part of our intervention, where we recommending the forensic issues. I guess matters of this nature would naturally find its way to that process. We can't throw it out, but I think it's one of those things we should package. Whatever needs to be forensic can go that route.
Chair, I agree with the approach that we refer what needs further investigation to the Portfolio Committee. What we are not going to be able to do is to even take things that need further investigation into our work, because we have until Friday to finalize our work. We don't have time to go back and investigate validity of what has been submitted to us. But all those we think they need further probing, let the committee do it, because we are not going to wish the committee away. It's there, it exists, and it has an opportunity of making further investigation on issues that affect its operations. Thanks.
No, thank you very much, Chair. In agreement with what colleagues are raising, what we need to do, because we'll have to report to Parliament, even whatever that we want to refer to the committee had to be referred accordingly to our report. So therefore, I think let's package all this new evidence, and we'll create an annexure that speaks of new evidence during the, the finalization of our work. Then that matter, then once the report is tabled with the annexure, can then be formally referred to the portfolio committee responsible. So I think that's how we should sort of approach it, Chair. Thank you. So that it has weight, people have, there's a lot of information, by the way, that is coming forward on a number of things, mismanagement and all of that, you'll know that part. So that information, let's package it, have an annexure, and then let it be referred from our report. In fact, we must say the following annexure contain the following information, let it be referred to the portfolio committee to process. Obvious processing include that forensic investigation that then comes in.
All right. I mean, just for, okay, then I'll give you my comment, because I also read these documents to tell you how I read it. Yes, sir.
No, Chair, thank you very much, and sorry for putting my hand up late. You see, in all of this, I think we've just got to keep going back to the terms of reference. What are our terms of reference? Our terms of reference is not to dissect the SABC, in the manner that people are expecting us to. We need to make broad recommendations to Parliament, and some specific ones, which will have to be taken forward by other organs of state or the judiciary or whatever. And I think if we keep going back to the terms of reference, it'll help us moving forward. Otherwise, we can really get bogged down, and I like the approach that my colleagues are suggesting. Thanks.
No, I agree 100%, honourable members. Just for your own benefit, when I read this thing over the weekend, all of them, but really on this one, what I picked up, for instance, is that he's reaffirming what was there all the time about non-compliance with supply chain management. And he's talking about unauthorized contracts. I mean, if you read it very broadly, that's what he was talking about. And that we'd already captured in our report. So we can do that. We can list it here that we have, in fact, considered his report. Matters that are for further processing will be via annexures, and other matters are reaffirming what we've already got in our report. He never disputed anything in our report. He never disputed anything in our report. Ms. Killian.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think what is very important for us is obviously, I trust that we could elaborate further when we get to the recommendations, also to bring specific matters under the attention of the Auditor General for future audits as well. Because if we speak of irregular expenditure then we have to make sure that specific contracts, because I can recall when the AGSA was before us, there was mention that some documents were not available. So perhaps through this process, some of those documents could be unearthed so that they could investigate them further as well. Thank you, Chair.
All right. As members go along, I'm hoping that you're developing your recommendations as well, because we're not doing it on our side. So all these you'll put as recommendations and we'll debate them, but we agree that we cannot have a document that doesn't recommend implementation of the AG's findings. And we can then list one or two if we want to list them, but please do your building of your recommendations, because it's certainly not going to come from outside. That deals with Mr. Shushu's input? Yes? The final one is the SABC 8. SABC 8 really was, for me, forward-looking. This is matters for the interim board and going beyond. That is my reading, that there is really nothing in it, and I think that's what Cindy is talking about. Just picking up what came from their report, but in the main, it's stuff that must be for the interim board and or the permanent board going forward. SABC 8 input.
Chair, I just want clarity with regard to SABC 8. Is there any other information that they've communicated to the committee, either in the form of a letter? Because I did pick up at some point, but I don't see it. Maybe if it's captured here, if not obvious, because it refers to current issues again. You know, as we are dealing with the issues that has been raised now that need to be further investigated. Maybe that point, you can help us with that point.
Say again? But are you covering it? He's saying that you covered it. Cindy's saying it's summarized. Then if you look at the next input, although we've got SABC 8, you've got Suna Fenter. And Suna Fenter talks about yes, sir? Mr.
Chair, I think there was information that was circulated that speaks of not only these issues, but the current, where they even allege of still the current, the previous COO continue giving leadership and instructing the officials currently as we speak, that is still in charge, by the way, the person. And that information is very important because we have to find a way, Chair. Let's just note it, but I think we'll come back to that particular information later if it's not covered here.
No, it is covered there.
It's covered.
On
Thanks,
page
Chair.
21, we say, amongst others, an investigation into the continued involvement. It's covered. Are you happy? Thank you very much. We're talking about SABC 8 and Suna Fenter. We're putting them all in one bag. So you'll be in Waters, and then we'll follow by Honorable. Okay, let's go down the line because it seems like everybody wants to talk.
Well,
in terms of what we've got on page 22, Honorable Waters, have we added or missed or?
Yeah, Chair, I'm talking about the black paper by the SABC 6 of the 8. Okay, there's some. We've listed some of the recommendations here and omitted to mention others. And I think if we're going to mention one, we should mention them all. Okay, so if I may, on top of page 21, it says the establishment of an editorial ombud. I don't know, that's supposed to be ombudsman, I'm sure. It's just a typo. But they were calling for introduction of an internal ombudsman, not editorial, internal ombudsman, which I think is a difference. So if we could change that there. Then the other point 4 of the recommendations of theirs in their report. So if I may, I hope I pronounce this right. Sekalala Biso, Dick Foxon and Vision View transactions must be investigated. Did I did? My apologies. The Unholy Alliance, the New Age, okay, that's there, sorry, that is there. The public funding to the SABC, the increasing thereof, I didn't see that. Is it there? Last bullet. My apologies. A multi-stakeholder board. Is that there? Okay, these are recommendations. We don't have to agree with them. But if we, Chair, my point is if we're listing some, we must list them all.
The question is if we don't list them at all.
No, we must list them, I think.
That's what you say. You're saying we must cut and paste everything when you get to
no,
this.
just their headline, just their, not everything, just the headlines of each point. I think it's important that do with enforcers and senior executive appointments. I know we've the enforcers of it's a very serious issue, that one, and we need to reflect that in the report. And then there were two more, which please forgive me if I'm repeating them if they're mentioned. Yeah. Hang on. Okay, that's fine. That's covered then. If it, yeah, okay. That's that one. And then return of quality, merit, and training at the SABC. That was another recommendation of theirs. And the 11th one. Okay, thank you. The 11th one was the return of personnel and programs, which we'll obviously have to read that for the motivation, but that was the 11 recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Do you think we must put it in the fashion that you are saying? We've got them there. All right, said, let's go to Swart and we'll go to Singh.
Chair, 18.1.1, where are made aware of email correspondence which supports Mr. Nvoko's evidence that the SABC bore significant amount of the costs associated with the TNA business briefings. Now, that's substantiating evidence, which is important for us to note because there's a clear that Mr. Nvoko's evidence is contradicted or disputed, I think, if I remember correctly, in the SABC's document. So we need to just, it's important when we weigh up evidence that there is substantiating evidence there when we consider the SABC's response to those TNA business briefings. Then we also need to be aware that, just on the Suna Fenta issues, there are a number of concerns which she raises in her document, and I think it was raised by one of the earlier members. I think it was Mr. Mshlangu who indicated the continued involvement of the former COO, and she makes reference to that in her report on the 14th of February. She also, so we need to be aware of that. The security of the SABC 8, which we highlighted, and our concerns about their well-being. It's also important to note that the SABC, in their response, say they note that, and they referred the SABC 8 to wellness programs, I think, or something like that. So it's important for us to be aware of the SABC's response on those issues. And again, for us to ensure that what we have recommended for their security has been, in fact, implemented. And then I think it's also important that there are, on page, paragraph 3 of her submission, there's a whole, which would support our observation and possible recommendation of a forensic investigation into what the term which is used is enforcers in the newsroom, and there are a number of names which are mentioned in her document. So that's very important when we get to recommendations as well, Chair. So I think there's a lot in these issues which we need to bear in mind. I think the black paper is correct going forward. It's also helpful. We don't necessarily have to agree with everything, but I think that there's a lot in that we can consider. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to agree with Honourable Swart that what they've put in this black paper are useful recommendations, but we should kind of remind ourselves to carry it forward. When we're considering recommendations, we have something on our side to say, well, these, because not everybody has given us recommendations. Many are just responding on factual content. But here are specific recommendations which we need to have on our side when we're looking at our recommendations that we propose to Parliament. Thank you.
Chairperson, I'm also concurring with the fact that these recommendations that they are bringing forward, the SABC 8 at Suna Fender, are very important. But safe to say that some of these will be taken forward to the other bodies like full committee in Parliament to action them. But they're raising very, very important matters.
Covered, Chair.
Chairperson, yes. Again, I think we must every time just remind ourselves that we can't do it all. We will have to refer specific recommendations in relation to the SABC going forward to the Portfolio Committee. So it must be contained in our recommendations, but it must become a responsibility of a particular body to ensure that they look at the feasibility and practical implementation of some of these recommendations. Thank you, Chairperson.
Chair, thank you. Just on Ms. Fenter's recommendations, I want to support Honourable Swart when he says, with the second point of her recommendations about the enforcers, in her submission on page 2, she mentions quite a few people who she believes are enforcers. And I think we need to mention those names in this report. I really do. It's a very serious matter. I mean, when we get to recommendations, we may call for, for investigation into enforcers, but I do think that according to what we're summarizing her submission, and I think we need to put those names into the submission. Thank you.
looking at members, there's a proposal. I just don't know if we're saying, she's saying they must be investigated. And I just don't know that it is advisable for us to be saying so-and-so must be investigated and we put him in a document forever. I mean, that's just, that's why I'm looking at everybody else, but it is on her document on page 2 of her document. Comment on that one. First of all, let's start by saying we agree that we're going to add those other things you've spoken about, the recommendations. That's all done with. It's just this one point that we're talking about. We have said in our document as it stands that Suna Fenter is saying go and look deeper into enforcers. That's what we're saying in our document. And Mr. Waters is saying, no, let's be more elaborate on that one. I'll tell you why we were not, Mr. Waters, because by no means is this an exhaustive list. So you're going to put 5 people and there could be 55 people. I just don't know, but I thought it was safer for us to say, because I don't want us to be taken to court on any technicality going forward. Is it not better to say there is this, we agree there's this, let it be investigated by a relevant authority, whoever they are, for our own integrity of our report? Because these documents, honorable members, we will submit to the investigating whatever as part of evidence. So that's all that I'm saying. But let's take Mr. Waters had put a proposal on, and how does the committee feel on that proposal? 1, 2.
No.
What?
Yeah, 1, 2.
1, 2, 3.
No, I wanted to propose, Chair, that we sort of maintain the position that you have put across. If we're to make a mistake and begin to put names as they are put there, and that forms part of our report, it's going to be very problematic moving forward. You must know that as much as these people before they were under oath, and then now the further submission may be challenged, Chair. So let's just stick to what you're proposing. The record will then speak for itself, meaning that when we make our final submission, that the record will form part of the package of what must be investigated, rather than putting the names of the people. I want to propose that we stick to your proposal as you have put it.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we must now be very careful. We have agreed that we will have a summary of the responses, and that it will be, just very short and succinct. Now, if we start to elaborate on some of the responses, then the argument could be made, but why this one and not that one? And if I look at the SABC's documentation, then we will find ourselves in an absolute deep end. So I would suggest that we also, as far as specifics contained in Ms. Fenter's submission, that we refrain from that. We don't deal with the details of the names, etc. We can deal with the principle that there should be further a spotlight on operations in the news editorial policies, etc., in the newsrooms of the SABC, but that we don't go into the details of putting the names in our document. Thank you, Chairperson. My understanding is in any case that all the submissions will become part of the documentation surrounding the inquiry, so it will be there. We must just not lift some, too much into our final document. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'm covered by the previous speakers. Just to add that what Mr. Singh reminded us again this morning was fundamental. Much as we had a lot of information at our disposal, we must, in that information, make sure that we don't lose sight of our mandate. Because there's a lot that came out of the work that we are doing, but we are not going to be able to follow each and every lead that emerged. So for me, I think our referral of all this is a better approach, and also this thing of having all the documents capturing whatever sentence in the same manner is not necessarily going to assist us. Where we are having a summary, when we say according to Ms. Fender's input, some of the issues, and we cite them, should be referred for investigation. Whoever wants to make a follow-up to that will refer to the documents that are going to be attached to the report. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, I'm happy. Initially, I was under the impression, and maybe I misunderstood, that the annexure would only be submitted with the report. But if all the submissions, the full submissions, in addition to the annexure that we're working on, this report, is submitted, then that's fine, because all the names will be there. Am I right? Then all the
Yeah.
submissions will be
Remember,
in full.
remember we've been always talking about what we've been calling a virtual library. Because everything that we've got will be somewhere for somebody to go and refer to. Certainly our document to Parliament won't be a 1,000-page document. It will be this document, but we will have all these things for future reference. If Swartz or Singh or Smith or whoever, SIU, wants to look at it, we'll always say to them, go to room number V8 or wherever it is, and you'll find it. That was always what we had said, including the transcripts, by the way. We're not going to submit the transcripts to Parliament, but they will be there for people to go and refer to. I want to say the fact that we are highlighting it in our report and possibly be in our recommendations should suffice. Can we move on that point? Yes?
Yeah, no. There's this point, Chair, on the documentation that all documents, all documents will have to be formally tabled somehow, Chair, for purpose of record keeping, because it's through Parliament that documents will then be recorded as tabled. So we'll then table information from witnesses and everything as you prepare the report separate, meaning that that information then becomes, Parliament takes ownership of that information rather than just putting it somewhere in the office there. So it then gives, in fact, a Parliament the responsibility to make sure that document is properly archived.
All right. Lunch is at 1 o'clock. Can we move on to SOS? Can we? Yes? All right. 18, Cindy's asking the question on 18.3. Everything remains the same. Is that our understanding? 18.3 on page? On page 21. On the Sunafenta one. Yes. On the SABC 8 we'll change editorial to internal, and we'll add those recommendations, Honorable Waters, that you suggested. All right? Happy? Thank you. Page 22 of, yes, ma'am. Break. Okay. We had dealt with everything that we thought we were going to deal with up to lunch, so we are moving an hour ahead. Can we have a 5-minute break, and then we'll push with SOS, Right to Know, and hopefully Media 24, after Media 24, media monitoring, and take it from there. 5 minutes, 12 o'clock, we come back. Thank you very much. Please don't give me a heart attack. This one has given me enough pain already.
You saw those allegations.
I saw those allegations and the lawyers
Lungi.
are dealing with it. The lawyers
I don't, because I didn't want to raise it, but I thought you might want to.
No, I didn't. No, my lawyer.
Testing, 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 testing.
Anybody brought it, it's with them. I can't talk to it.
Yeah.
Those are things that are emanating from 2015 beyond. And it's just the,
One, two.
Or do you want to break for lunch? Is that better? Is that better? All right, honorable members. This is a legal eviction. Our technical people asked me to be evicted from where I am, so we'll move to this side. And 45 minutes. Let's see how far we push for 45 minutes. And maybe you're going to have to sit here, you're too far away. Can we go to page 22? We are now dealing with the SOS coalition. I am assuming that members have read the submissions. We, in turn, tried to extract what we thought was the essence of their submissions. And once again, we could have left things out that you feel that you'd want to add to them. Also, as we do that, members, let's remind you that you will, on your own, have your own working document in terms of recommendations, but where, from the submissions, you think there should be changes to the body of the document, like we had with Mr. Foxton, you'll just highlight it and we will put it into the document. So I want to go to 20.1.1. Is there anything that members want to add to or subtract from, or are you comfortable with the approach, and does it change anything in the body of the report that we sent out on the 27th, or the report dated the 27th, the interim report? And 20.2.2. In fact, we can deal with 20.2.1. That's not our mandate. I mean, the amendment of the Broadcasting Act and those type of things are things that we know that is going to go somewhere. We can note it, but it's not something that we are going to deal with. Anything, Honorable Singh?
Chairperson, thank you. I think here, none of these items here are designed or desired to impact on our report. But I think they should be noted for recommendations. As we spoke earlier about SABC 8 recommendations, here again, we saved this aside for recommendations. Thank you.
Chair, just in the paragraph, we say in the second line, the third line, but the second sentence, these include urgent actions to be taken by the soon-to-be-appointed interim board. Now, there's no guarantee there's going to be a soon-to-be-appointed interim board, given the fact that the Communications Portfolio Committee is not dealing with it at all, right? So, in their recommendations on page 2, if you've got the document, they call for the formal dissolvement of the board under section 15A and 1 and 15A 2C. So I think we need to stipulate that the current board needs to be formally dissolved. And then okay, but then this paragraph is misleading. We're assuming there's going to be a soon to be appointed interim board, and we can't assume that. Okay, all right. And then there's a few other recommendations that we haven't captured here. Honourable Singh's mentioned the SABC 8. If you look at the end of the paragraph, it says, and the editorial policy. It's editorial policy and censorship, according to them here. And then, sorry, there was a few others. That's there, the multi-choice agreement. I'm just scrolling down, Chair, so if you just bear with me. That's a censorship one, SABC 8. That's it. That's all. So it's basically the editorial policy and censorship must be included, please, at the end of that paragraph. And as Honourable Singh mentioned, the SABC 8. Well, no, because we have to change. We make an assumption that there must be an interim. Yeah, we have to say urgent action to be taken by the interim board. Yeah, we can take soon to be appointed up because that's okay.
Proposal from Alderman Waters is, Cindy, you'll take out soon to be appointed, but members will talk to that if you want to talk to it, and we'll add the last recommendation. I think I'd noted Killian, just on SOS. Anybody else wants to speak on SOS? Okay, let's note you. It'll be Killian, it'll be Singh, Killian and Singh. Loliwe, no? SOS? Killian, Singh and Loliwe. Killian?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think it is not necessary to adjust the soon to be appointed because it is the assumption of SOS that it is to be, and hopefully our assumption as well, because we make a very, very serious recommendations as far as, well, we have made. And secondly, I would like to suggest that when we get to the recommendations, we can just check that that we have already, because we have discussed this matter of the dissolution of the board. Remember, we've been through it. We've discussed it. We said it must be formally dissolved in terms of the relevant sections of the Broadcasting Act. So I don't think that needs to be adjusted. I do believe that if we go into the headings of SOS, you have captured here corporate governance failures, but if the Honourable Waters wants to have some of the others also captured, editorial policies and censorship, and then we must also refer to human resources and procurement, because that is also a specific heading. And actually, some of the human resources and procurement elements that are contained here is very critical for the SABC going forward. So I would like to argue for that. As far as paragraph 20.1.2 is concerned, Chair, we're not dealing with the amendments to the Broadcasting Act. However, we must, and I intend to do that, we must in fact just take note of the comments on the MOI, because that deals very definitely with our brief and our mandate of the governance failures at the SABC, and that is one of the issues right at the root of the problems and challenges that we face at the SABC is the amendment to the MOI. So I think we must take that forward when we get to the recommendations section. But we can certainly list it here, and I think as far as paragraph 2.1.2 is captured here, there's nothing wrong with it. That is the essence of their submission, although obviously we're not just going to take forward some of their suggestions because we're not dealing with the Broadcasting Act as such in great detail. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Oliwe, before you speak, can I, and I don't know how to put it, honourable members, and of course we can debate it. You are now, Honourable Waters and Honourable Killian, saying, well, if somebody talks about HR matters, then we must talk about something else. I really thought we were trying to summarize it in our report. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, if you put A, put B in. Can we appeal to members that if what we have put here sufficiently covers, because we had this debate around the naming, for instance. Your HR matters, for instance, ma'am, are covered in that document. For instance, 22.1, it says, these include urgent action to be taken, and okay, interim board or soon to interim board, in relation to corporate governance, in relation to HR matters, in relation to supply chain management, and in relation to editorial policy. So it's covered everything that you guys have been talking about. Unless you guys are saying this is not sufficient, you want to put in the meat, and I'm suggesting we shouldn't put the meat in. No, I've got Loliwe before you, sir. And I'll come back to you, sir.
Chair, you have partly covered me. But what I want to indicate to us is that let us refrain from the temptation of looking at what the Portfolio Committee on Communication is doing. Because our saying they have not started the process of the interim board, why should we worry that much about that? Because we are doing our work here and we must be concerned about our time frames. I don't see anything wrong in the capturing of the soon-to-be appointed interim board, because this is what SOS Coalition is indicating. So for me, let us remain with that, with the only addition of the editorial policy and censorship, rather than trying to go any step further. So I agree with what is captured there, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think my point is more covered, Chair. We cannot rewrite submissions that we have received. The fact that this is what has been extracted from the submission itself, as it is. So for us, we don't even have to get there. If we don't have an issue, Chair, let's agree we don't have an issue, then we pass. Because we are now going to rewrite submissions in the format that we want. And that will be definitely dangerous for us to do. So I'm proposing, Chair, if there's no issue, we pass it, we move to the next one.
Chair, I had my hand up earlier, but my colleagues. No problem. Yes, Chair, no, the only amendment that I think we should make here is a terminology which you referred to. We remove soon to be appointed and just say interim board, because in the SOS documents that they've submitted, they refer to an interim board. So otherwise, I'm happy with that paragraph.
That's what I was going to say to kill this debate. Soon to be interim. It's really semantics. Honourable Waters.
Chair, I want to my point was what Honourable Singh raised, the fact that in their submission, SAS does not say soon to be at all. And if someone could show me where that is, then I'll accept it.
Cindy and I take responsibility. Remember, we said that we had been the people that were drafting the report, and where we've overstepped or understepped. So that is an oversight from me and Cindy. So we'll take those words out, because it's really not verbatim what SOS have said. So soon to be appointed will be replaced by the interim board. Honourable Chauke.
No, Chair, I think that is the easy process that we must follow. If we identify something that is not properly recorded as per submission, members must just raise it in that fashion, rather than opening up a debate as if now it is a Mike Water position, rather than saying that the position of SOS is as follows, you know. So I thought that we have to move fast now. I'm waiting for recommendations, Chair.
All right. No, it's fine. Are members comfortable that we have sufficiently processed the SOS submissions, captured them accurately, and if there are points for recommendations, I'm hoping you're noting them, that we'll argue them when we get to recommendations. All right? I thank you very much. Can we go to right to know? And Cindy, right to know is on the same page. All right. Again, this is our document, the backroom staff. You have read the document. Is there anything that we are not highlighting, or are there stuff that we are over highlighting on chapter 20(2)(1)? Any comments from any members? Swartz and then Honorable Singh.
Chair, just the reference by right to know in their bullet, the inclusion of the T&A business briefings to be included among those reported on under suspicious transactions. Now, we do deal with that under the whole issue. There is a separate chapter, so it's not that we don't deal with it at all. We deal with it elsewhere in the document. So I think it is covered. There is allusion, we do refer to that. So I don't think it's necessary to repeat that under suspicious transactions. I think there are other aspects there that we can look at, but you know, some of the issues here I didn't quite follow, because it appears that they are referred to, such as we did say, a thorough investigation of state securities agencies' activities at the SABC. So I'm not sure why the recommender is saying we must say that. I think there are issues that we already covered in our interim document. But where there are some useful other issues there that we might want to reflect when we get to recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you. This is a summary of what they are saying. We need not necessarily agree or disagree with what they are saying, but we note them. And as Honorable Swart says, we'll take them forward in recommendations.
Honorable Kubisa.
Yeah, I know, Chairperson, that some of the things they mentioned are already covered in our interim report. But on the matters that they recommend, I think it's safe to say that we don't have a mandate on them. They'll be taken forward with the recommendations.
What is?
Chair, just two of the recommendations I can't find specifically here, and that is in, we're right to know, eh? Page 22 and 23. Yeah, so in their submission, they talked about intimidation of SAB journalists. I don't know if that's covered under the second last bullet point on 22. But protection of journalists versus intimidation, I don't know. I think we need to be specific there. And then I don't see anything about the multi-choice and new age breakfast contracts, unless that's under the first bullet point with suspicious transactions. But, you know, oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. Right, thank you. Yes. As a separate bullet point, I think it's important. Yeah, thank you.
It's their input. If you feel that we should add it, we can add it. It's part of their document, so we'll add it. You got it, Sandy? So we'll add that one more bullet point to that one. That's right to know, honourable members, and I just wanted to not caution you, but just to always remind you that some of these are doing what we haven't done. They're almost suggesting recommendations. So we must be aware of it, that they are saying, look, this is what you should recommend. So you just can take note or park it when you go forward. So we shouldn't be too worried about what they're suggesting as recommendations. That deals with right to know. Is there anything else under the right to know submission that members would want to acknowledge, incorporate, delete? No? Media Monitoring Africa, and that is on page 23, and also the documents that you've received from Media Monitoring Africa. Anything that members feel should be brought to the fore and put into our body document? 20.3.1, 20.3.2, comments.
Chairperson, no, I believe that the summary here is in fact adequate. And obviously, again, when we get to the recommendations, Chairperson, we could take some of the comments that they are making here are in fact recommendations, and we can consider that when we deal with the recommendations.
Yeah, I think the summary is appropriate, but also note that with regard to their submission, some of the things are paraphrased differently from what we gave in our findings. But some of the things they say is what we have in our findings. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair Ngiyabonga. I think 3.2 covers recommendations, but on 3.1, I'm just asking aloud. I think those items that they want us to include in our interim report are in fact there, where we commented on the SABC's bias during the elections, and that was a point raised by Honorable Mokoena. And I think we've captured that, if I can remember correctly. And we've also captured the failure to adhere to ICASA's rulings in relation not to cover violent protests. Yeah, so I think if we've captured it already, then what they are saying to us is superfluous. If we have captured.
Yeah, it's superfluous, but we are not saying that it's discarded because everybody's watching. In fact, it's re-emphasizing what we've already got in our document. Honourable Waters, you'll be the last, sir.
Chair, I was just going to suggest on the third line, after elections, that we include, bias, the SABC's bias during elections in refusing to cover violent protests, just to cover ourselves. That's all I wanted to get included. And then it carries on, and the SAB's failure to adhere to ICASA's ruling. I don't know what members think about that. Okay, but it doesn't, yeah, that's right. ICASA's ruling was in relation to violent protests, but the SABC's biasness during the election doesn't mean it's linked to the ICASA. It's a separate, if you know what I mean. It could be,
Understand it, yeah.
If you're reading it, it could be two separate issues.
Okay.
I mean,
right, there's a proposal that we add violent protest under elections. You read that sentence, comments on the SABC, and the suggestion is that in the body of the document, I'm not sure, Cindy, we're looking at Cindy to see if that's what they actually said, unless Honourable Waters, you can show us that that's what they said in their, remember it's their submissions that we're trying to summarize.
I can, if you look at page 3.
Okay. Then it diffuses any debate. If it's exactly what they said on page 3, let's capture it.
It's paragraph 2.3.1.
You want to read it to me, sir, please?
Okay. On the 26th of May 2016, Mr. Motsoeneng announced a ban of coverage of violent protests. This decision appeared to be at the same time as a surge in violence in Vuwani, I hope I pronounced that right, sorry, and appeared in the form of a press release which was further disseminated to SABC staff via an instruction from senior management. This decision was supported by the Minister, despite it being a clear violation of freedom of speech. And it carries on. I mean,
Maybe let's get the line that specifically Honorable Waters want us to put. Because that's what we must get. The line that you want us to insert.
Let me.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
On page 23 of our document that we're talking to, page 23, there's a sentence that says, i.e., comment on the SABC's bias during elections. We all got that sentence? And he says, to cover violent protests. He just wants to add 3 words to that last thing. That's what he said. Is that what you're suggesting, sir? That's what he's suggesting. So are we all together with the recommendation that he's making?
That's fine, because it's there in the body of the... Oh.
Yeah. No. Yeah, carry on.
No, I'm saying that it's in the body. It is fair. We can put it. It does not take anything. It's there in the body of the report.
Chairperson, I won't have a problem with it, but that's not my reading of what is stated here. If we look at 2.2.6, and I think that was the summary, the reason for the summary that you have made, that refers to fairness and coverage, which is a key determinant of election coverage and reiterates the crucial role of the media, etc. Now, if I read your summary here, it actually refers to 2.2.6. If we insert the reference to elections, the bias during elections as far as the violent protest is concerned, we're actually limiting their input. That is my concern. If we are going to restrict it to violent protests, their issue was the need for unbiased coverage during elections. And I think that's what you've captured. And my concern is if we go along with the suggestion by Honourable Waters, we're actually going to limit it to coverage of violent protests during elections.
And that's the essence of politics. Let's debate it, but we're not going to debate it forever. Waters' position, you are suggesting that it's limiting it. Anybody else help us in terms of crafting something that's acceptable to the committee? Yes, sir. Kubis.
Chair, as it is crafted here in our report, it is broader. But the moment you bring in Honourable Waters, the phrase violent protests, it narrows it, unless you say including violent protests, then it doesn't take the meaning of the broader perspective that is in here in the report.
Well, now, I hear Honourable Killian. She makes a good point. We could say then, that sentence, including but not limited to violent protests. And that would cover, right? But it doesn't limit, because it is mentioned here, the violent protests. And it was an important aspect. But as you say, there were other aspects as well. Thanks.
Let me take you.
No, Chair, I withdraw my earlier support to Mr. Waters, meaning that I now agree with what the Prof has sort of finally proposed to include violent protests. So I've withdrawn my support to you.
No,
in good spirit.
You've withdrawn your support from a non-existent recommendation. So let me remind members that reserve your energies for the recommendations. We shouldn't be debating what somebody's telling us, because at the end of the day, this report must be our report. It can't be a report that because Right to Know or somebody else said it, and that becomes the essence of our debate. Reserve it for this afternoon or for this evening, Madod. For now, just be happy that we've tried to capture and satisfy South Africans that we've taken every input into consideration fairly and transparently. That deals with media monitoring. Anything else on media monitoring's input that you would want to include or subtract from our body report? Anything else? If not, I am going to unilaterally impose that we go. Honourable Killian?
Chairperson, can't we deal with your letter in reaction to Mr. Motswaning's legal team, because I've gone through it and it's a very good letter.
Members have been given the letter. I'm really not going to read the letter out publicly here. Everybody's got a copy of this letter. The question that I'm asking you is, can I sign it and send it off? Kubis?
Except there is we've already spoken to that minor addition, Cindy, and yeah.
Yours is the minor addition on paragraph 3 saying add the word on. That's what you're talking about, yes? Killian?
Chairperson, I hear what you're saying, that you don't want to read it, but I think it is important that for the record, you just report in essence what the response is. You don't need to read it word by word, but I think it is important because this is recorded, and I think it's important that those who are not participating and seeing the letter will know what the essence of our reply to that will be. Thank you.
No, Chair, it will be proper that we read that letter for the benefit of the process that we have started, this open process, and the public. There's nothing wrong because their letter again is a public letter. I'll take it that that letter is not a private letter sent to us. Once it has been received and distributed, it's a public letter. So ourselves will have to continue maintaining that principle of open and fairness, because we are dealing with people that we have given an opportunity who had, yeah, exactly. By now we have read the letter. So I'm saying that just read these 2 paragraphs, just read it for us. And then so that members of the public and South Africans must know what we are writing.
You know, honorable members, you know, decency dictates that at least the recipient of the letter must have sight of the letter before it becomes, because then otherwise I'm writing in the media. Can I reach a compromise by saying I will ask somebody to send this letter by email immediately, and I'll read it after lunch? Common decency says I can't read something that the recipient hasn't seen. All right, so we'll get it sent off electronically now, and if you insist we must read it, we'll read it after lunch. Honorable Waters. But so it means that all of you that have it is embargoed. If it leaks, I'll hate all of you for the rest of my life. Waters?
Chair, there is an error on paragraph 3, if I
Yes.
may. I won't read out the sentence.
No, read it.
But it's a 3rd line,
Yes.
and maybe other people can see.
Between which 2 words?
Based.
Yes, that's the
and
one we
evidence.
spoke about. Based.
Sorry.
We're going to add the word on. Yeah, no, that's what Kubisa said. I will add the word on. We will send it out. Recipients, in my view, should get it, at least an attempt that they get it. And because you want us to read it for transparency's sake, we'll summarize what we wrote. But in essence, honorable members, we were responding to the letter that we received. So just embargo it until after lunch, and then I will give a summary of what was the response. But in essence, our response was acknowledging it and what our view is on it. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, Chair, we're now giving you a formal go-ahead to send the letter. Chair? We're giving you the go-ahead. You can now send the letter.
No, we'll affect the grammatical error. We will send the letter out and then we'll summarize it. I mean, for the record, we've responded. That was Swartz's request that we should formally respond, and we have formally responded. You've got a copy of it. We'll break for lunch, honorable members, and we'll resume at 2 o'clock. And when we resume at 2 o'clock, our researcher, you are going to come and talk to us for 10 minutes on those 4. Just a very brief so that members can get aside, because we're now getting into the ones that are more meatier. So you'll give us a 10-minute input on whatever, and we'll go through the process. We're dealing with Mr. Molife, TNA Media, Dr. Ngobane, the Minister, and the SABC. And then you can add the last one after the SABC, and input and discussion on the MOI. All right. After SABC, we've asked them to prepare some executive kind of summary on the MOI with the intention of us putting it in as an observation or finding. So they're not coming with recommendations, but they should be able to say, out of everything that has been said around the MOI, this is what the committee should be putting in as an observation. And we can then debate it. So just add the MOI. We've asked them to do some work on it between legal, research, content advisor. And we also asked Advocate Vanara to also, again, Swartz, to come and do a presentation on the glaring contradictions. So he'll also come and say to us, because I think we've got it somewhere in our document, but he'll be able to say from the discussions, these are the glaring contradictions that we will then have to find a way of processing. So add contradictions, or whatever we call it, conflicting, and add MOI. Okay. Cindy's indicating to me that all of you sitting from Waters up to here, please don't leave. She wants to whisper something in your ear. For everybody else, we resume at 2 o'clock.
Chair, can we resume at about 2:15 so that we can go to the House?
Oh, okay. No, absolutely. Members had indicated they want to go to the House at least to register. So let's resume at 2:15 sharp. So it means you'll go into the House at 2 o'clock. you'll register your attendance in the house, although we've got permission, and we will start at 2:15. Yeah, that's why we're asking you to be the last to leave, so that you don't leave your stuff and don't take ownership of it. So if all members can stay, we will make sure that this place is secure until 2:15. So meeting adjourned until 2:15. Thank you very much.